HTML, style, and CSS. That's Cascading Style Sheet. This is presentation 7 and the last of the basic presentations. Looking at style, there are 3 ways to introduce style into your web pages. There's the inline style, where you place the tags locally within the HTML of your web page. The scope is only local, it's for that immediate tag. You place it right within that tag. Then there's the embedded. This is placed usually in the head of the web page. Now here's another thing we're going to have up in the head. And the scope is the entire web page. That means it affects everything in the entire web page, not just in one tag. And finally, the linked or external style, which is considered cascading style sheets, placed in a separate file. The scope is the entire website. So for example, if you have many pages in the website, you can link them all to these external style sheets, and they will affect all of them. The style will be consistent across all of your style sheets. Let's talk about inline style for a second. Very simply done. You place it within any of the tags. You'd have some sort of a tag, you'd put style equals, and then one of the style declarations. You can include more than one by separating with semicolons. And basically the style declarations are done by having the attribute first, a colon, and a value. And then if you wanted more than that, semicolon, attribute, colon, value, so on and so forth. An example here. For example, if we wanted to make the H1, whenever you did H1, header 1 style for a heading, you wanted it always to be colored gold, and you wanted it always to have a certain font. You would say style equals, quote, color, colon, gold, semicolon, font family, colon, sans serif, quote. The embedded style, like I said, is done up in the header. The style is set up as a separate style tag. You put the word style, type, equals, and then what they call the style sheet language, which is some of your selectors. The language would be like text or one of the other languages. In this case, you'll see an example below. We'll standardly use text. Then you put the selectors down in there, and the selectors would be the type of a tag that you wanted to have this style apply to, and then the attributes as before. And then you need an end style tag. Okay, so let's look at an example. Style, the type is going to be quote text / CSS quote. If we wanted to affect the H1 tag again, as we did before, we would put H1 space a brace now. Okay. Then we put color, colon, gold, semicolon, font family, colon, sans serif. Okay. Quotes aren't needed here. Then a style sheet end tag. And that way it affects the entire page. All the H1 tags work on the entire page, where the previous example, they only worked for that one H1 tag. You can affect many tags at the same time. For example, I can put H1, H2, H3, H4, H5 and have them all gold and of that family. Okay. If you omit the type, notice the type wasn't placed up there in this style one. This is talking about embedded styles at the beginning again. The type is automatically considered to be text / CSS. So if you omit it, you've got that. I put it in the previous one for the example. Now comes the external style sheets, and these are very popular. These are used to format. These are used to do a whole lot of things, and a lot of web page work today is done primarily from the external style sheets. They're in a separate file. You link that to your web page, and we'll show you that in an example a little bit. That link is put in the head section. So the head of your web page up there, you put this link to this file. You can use the link tag with the attribute to link. Also, it's possible to use the @ import to link it. The @ import may link style sheet to style sheet, and that's the way why they're called cascading, because you have one style sheet linked to another style sheet. This allows a great deal of flexibility. Let's take a look at the first type of link. Here we go. It's placed in the head section, and it's just simply link, and then the URL where it's at, the type, and the type of link, the relation, I guess is what it is, and the type. For example, let's get down to the example. It's easier to see. Link href. Let's say we had a file out there called style.css, and you should name them ending in CSS. The rel it's going to be a style sheet. Put that in there, and then type is text/CSS. You probably should put all parts in this. Although some are optional, it's a good idea to get this practice. It would basically link a style sheet called style CSS to that web page, and these styles would pertain to the whole web page, so you can see you can have these styles linked in other web pages as well. The import is just about as easy. Again, you would put it between the style tags up in the header section. So here you would have to sort of do an embedded style type, but you'd use the @import to pull in another style sheet, and you could use it along with other declarations you had there. So you'd say between the style, here's the example, style, @import, and then the URL and the name of the style sheet you want to bring in. And then you could have other declarations that you were normally going to put in an embedded style, and then the end style tag. Here's some examples of styles. We could do H1, H2P for paragraph, and we can make them all blue. Okay, so the color of all those would be blue. We could say body color blue, or make it a different color. Here is, remember LI? What was LI? List item, right? A list item, and we can make it anything we put bold in a list item would be having the color aqua. So you can change things within your web page and for the whole web page by using styles in this way. It's used a lot in ordered lists and unordered lists. Not just what I showed you back there for a list item, but also for the whole area. For example, you can create list items, and you could say style list type upper Roman. Remember, that was the capital Roman letters. Or upper alpha, capital alpha letters. So by doing LO, this would be ordered list. I can make the first level be Roman numerals, and then LO means the second level in is all going to be alpha. So here's the way I can control my basic lists and unordered lists and tell what I want for each level. Now, we only had a few types of styles. We had, for the unordered list, we had a disk, a circle, and a square. But you can make your own bitmapped image, which is a JPEG. You could put it into a file, and it's got to be a little bitty thing, because you make a big image, you're going to take up a lot of web space. It's got to be a little bitty thing, but you could create your own shapes. Okay? So, for example, here we have list style. We're going to have it circle, and we're going to have a URL, bitmap1 JPEG, and inside. Okay, so we're going to place the graphic inside. There's an inside and outside feature here that we'll experiment with. Let's take a look at this. List styles a little closer. List styles, you have a type. You have disk, circle, square, decimal, all right, for different types. So we could say list style image, URL, JPEG image. List style location is inside or outside, so we can place it inside or outside. And then any of the types above for a list style then. Now, we got to look at the precedence for a minute. What order are these things done in? We have inline has a precedence over embedded, which means that if you have an embedded style and then you put an inline at one place, the inline will work. It'll overshadow the embedded. The embedded has precedence over external. So for example, if you have some embedded items and then you have a style sheet from outside, the embedded will take over. Even if the external style sheet has some styles in it, the embedded will be the one that can be seen. External has precedence over browser rules. Browser rules are standard, but if you have an external style sheet, it takes precedence. And then browser rules handle anything undefined. That makes sense because that allows you to change individual things in a web page, or change an entire web page in a group, or make a whole group of web pages that's going to overshadow anything the browser does, and then anything you haven't taken care of, the browser handles. All right, let's take a look at some examples now. Particularly that list. I wanted to show you something interesting in there and how that works and how the list items, whether it's ordered or unordered. Particularly those pictures. Didn't explain that very well in the presentation, but let's take a look here. I've created 3 pictures. If you'll notice, here's one of them. And I'm going to get my drawing tools out so I can kind of point. There's one of them. Here's another one. Here's another one. 3 pictures. I called them B-image 3, B-image 2, B-image 1. Notice the size, not very big, 20 by 30, 19 by 29, 19 by 29. I can click on them and give you an idea of what they look like. Let's see if we can do that. If I click on them, if you look right down here, take a look. That's what that one looks like. Rather small, but it's a different shape. All right, let's just look at the other ones quickly down there. There's a star and a multi-pointed star. Okay. I now want to show you a cascading style sheet. And I've already brought this up, so let me come down and get it and bring it on the screen here. There it is. And in this cascading style sheet, I call it styletest.css. Create it in Notepad, just as before. But because I have Dreamweaver on this thing, anytime I name anything .css, Dreamweaver puts its tag on it. That's why, if you look up here, you see this Dreamweaver type emblem on it. Let's look down here. We have the ordered list. I'm going to say list type is going to be decimal. Okay. Then for the second level in, I'm going to make it upper alpha. For the third level in, notice there's 3 of them, I'm going to make it upper Roman. And for the 4th level in, look at this, I'm going to make it lower alpha. So now I've set that up to always happen that way if I link it into the web page. Down here I've done something else. I put circle, disk, and square for those levels, so automatically those levels will get me circle, disk, square in that order, which is a little out of order to what they originally were. And over here, notice I put an X in front of these. I don't want these images to take effect because I want you to see the circle, disk, and that, and then I'm going to drop the images in to show you what happens. And I place them on the inside. It's a placement on the line, basically, is what this inside-outside thing does. All right, let's take a look at that. I'm going to go up here. We're going to take a look at what that web page looks like first, just in that form. And there it is. This is an inline heading. We'll look at the code first. This is an embedded. That you'll see in the code. And then these are created by means of my cascading style sheet down here. Now notice the unordered is first, the order second. It doesn't make any difference what order you put them in the style sheet. It'll work either way on the table. Notice I have circle first, then I have round disk here, okay, and then the rest are going to be squares all the way in. Notice here, down in this area, this is performed nicely. I've got your numbers, second level, letters, upper Roman, lower alpha. And if I wanted to go in another level, I could get lower Roman here and make that situation. Let's go ahead and look at what we've got in the way of code here to see what these look like. There's my code window. I'll need to stretch this out a little bit so you can see it a little better. All right, as before, we've got the head in here, and there's the end of the head right there. Begin and end of head. All right, to start out with, let's look at this header up here. See the header up here? This right down here. What did I do? Header 1. See? Style. Color gold. This heading is an example of inline style. Okay? Then I came down and did a paragraph. Here's green. Let's look at the paragraph tag I put in. Again, this is inline style in a way. No, actually, this one's set up here. So this is embedded style. It says this paragraph, the color selected by embedded. The bold tags around the word embedded style, okay, will bold just that section. And if you look over here, you'll see it's bold. I'll show you that in a second. Notice in the style sheet, I started the style, I ended the style, I did a paragraph color green. Anything in a paragraph will appear green. Anything in bold will appear blue. Okay. One final thing before we put this away, take a look at the link, href, and there it is. That links my style sheet that I showed you a few minutes ago, which handles all of this stuff right down here. Okay. So now let's take a look at this line, this bluish line here, or greenish line rather. You'll see the paragraph tag, green right here. You see it, all green. And then where I hit the bold, it turns it blue. So these tags right in this area, right in here, are taking and doing that. This is what's nice about embedded. You can have consistency across web spaces. Well, let's do one other thing now. I'm going to cancel this out. I'm going to close my web page. And I'm going to open that style sheet, and I'm going to take off those X's so that now these pictures will come into play. There they are. File, save, minimize this. Let's open it up again and take a look at what we've got. Look at my unordered list. There's the star. You see what's happened here? The pictures are now in place of those other shapes. So you can make any shape you want. Lightning bolts or whatever you can do in a small area. But look how big basically my 20 by 20 thing is. It makes it a little large. You'd like to maybe get it smaller than this. Maybe 10 by 10 if you can work in an area that small for the type of picture you want. Turned out if I made it 10 by 10, these wouldn't differentiate very well. They wouldn't look very much different. So what you need to do is pick shapes or pictures you can do in small icon type areas, real small little areas, and create them as bitmaps to go in here.